Thanks, guys. I'm here with Bjergsen. Congratulations on TSM's first win, first victory of the season. Now, was today's victory a sigh of relief, or were you fully confident going into this game?
I think it's an important win, but not a pretty win for us. I think it's just good to, especially when you have a new roster, to just get one win on the board for confidence, for that morale boost. And I think it just helps our team a lot overall. I felt more confident this week than last week because I felt like our practice had more purpose and we were specifically working on certain things. I don't think we necessarily executed super well on those things that we learned, but at least everyone is aware and conscious of it, which means that we learned much faster that way.
Can you tell me how did you identify and kind of address any shortcomings that may have appeared last week?
I think it's pretty simple because we have a lot of veteran players and we have Song as our coach. So identifying the problems isn't as difficult as actually fixing them. So we recognize there's problems, especially just the synergy and communication. When you're used to playing on a team, there's certain things you don't communicate or that your teammates just understood, but now we have to gel as a team and kind of go back to the roots and say, be willing to communicate every small, simple thing so everyone's on the same page.
Now, looking back to last week, it was the first 0-2 for starting week for TSM's history. What kind of an effect did those results have on you and your team?
It just made us realize that we really suck, and the other teams are actually not bad right now. And I think it's just losing is always a good motivator, as long as you take it as something you have to break through and you don't feel embarrassed or crushed by it. I think we have players with strong mentality that see it as, all right, now we really have to step up rather than, oh, we're 0-2, we're just crushed, and the depression sets in. So I think it was just good fuel for our team.
Now, on a lighter note, going into this game, there was the big buildup of Power of Evil versus you again. Now, do you think you've killed the meme? You've defeated the Bjergsen killer?
Yeah, he wasn't even really trying to trade with me in lane. I got off 20 CS pretty easily. So, I mean, I think it still came down to just team fights and team play. He tried to pull out the Syndra against me, which I thought was funny. But I think Power of Evil is a solid player, but it's just a team game. Even in the game, I'm up a little bit of CS, but in the end, it all comes down to who moves faster, who communicates better, and all the scrimmages that they won, it seemed like they were faster to move around the map and pick the fights they want. So,
well, you play Fox tomorrow. Any thoughts going into that match?
I think Echo Fox is a really strong team right now. I think they will be a tougher opponent than OpTic for sure. I can't really say too much about the match, just that I think Echo Fox is really a team that people should be respecting and fearing. They are looking strong right now.
Well, good luck on that match tomorrow, and thank you so much for this interview. And for more on this game, let's hear from our analyst at the desk.
Thank you very much, Avali. In a game that eclipsed 60 minutes, TSM does snag a victory as OpTic moves to 0-3, but Bjergsen said it was an important win, not a pretty win.
Ooh. No, this is playing 100% to your strengths and weaknesses with how they drafted and how they built this game. You have double Kleptomancy, you have double Gathering Storm, you have GP, Ezreal, Azir, all late game powerhouses, and the entire focus of this team seemed to be like, let's just make it through laning phase and become better.
Yeah, when you look at the construction of this roster, a lot of times people thought that they would just be able to win every lane and that would automatically achieve victory. Well, you saw half of that, right? CSDs at 15 minutes, you can see they're up 10 in the top lane, 15 in mid, and 21 in the bot lane. And the top lane matchup, we pulled some averages so far this year, Gangplank versus Gnar. Gangplank should lose that by 26 CS on average at 15 minutes. Hunter was up by 10 with a call. So a lot of these guys were really outperforming the laning phase. But because the game was 62-minute long, that kind of makes you wonder, where were they lacking? And it was in cohesion.
Yeah, I mean, despite all these advantages, they had like a 5K gold lead built up while still being down kills. And it was just, you see that slow, steady rise. That's basically all off gold that they're generating from farming. Right. And you hit this late game point, and despite being Gathering Storm, and you have Ornn itemization coming in, which gives you even more power late game, they still struggled to close OpTic, and the only reason that OpTic lost, it seemed like, was because they pulled the trigger on a bad engage right at the very end.
I mean, it is one of those situations you're looking at the gold graph, and you see, well, it's an entirely blue graph, which must mean good things for TSM. But to your point, right, the fact that it takes this long and that we're relying, in a sense, on a game going this long for our champions to spike so ridiculously well that we can't lose the 5v5 at this point.
Yeah, they actually got a decent number of like 1 kill here or a lane pushing there, but we're actually just lacking the ability to deny vision from the opponent, force an objective, and actually make something happen. at like 55 minutes, it actually felt like they started doing those things with the split push calls, but it took a really long time.
But now I want to ask a somewhat dangerous question here, which is, was TSM right in taking this approach to garnering their first win? It isn't necessarily the way we want to see them play for the rest of the season, but was it not correct in terms of starting to pick up those wins and make sure that you're alive in the standings?
I mean, you have a rabid fan base, so I understand, like, let's just get a win on the board, like, that kind of mentality, and that feels like what this was opting into, because week to week, you don't really see an improvement with this play style and how they actually executed it. So in that sense, it's not more convincing, but you did get the win. All
right, and then lastly, on the side of OpTic, Jad, I just want to get your thoughts here, as once again, they've played closely with another team, but they are sitting at 0-3,
Yeah.
so again, it's a record reflection that doesn't necessarily match the play, I'd like to say.
This is where hard work for them is going to come in, and as Bjergsen even mentioned, mentality of being a losing team, you can't give up at this point.
Right.
They lost 2 60-minute games. 60-minute games by nature are very volatile, so they need to keep their heads up, but without that first win, it just gets harder and harder. I think they're on the right track as far as how well they're playing as a team. It's the individual lanes that are letting them down.
TSM got the W, OpTic still looking for one. When we come back, it's a battle between Echo Fox and Cloud9. Don't go anywhere.
Or doesn't have a lot of ways out of that one. The W pop doesn't matter. One more auto will do him in first. Blood, the power of evil.
Yeah, look at Evelyn.
Just fight slow.
I'll do me fighting on the left side.
Evelyn, no Jonya, no flash.
Yeah. Good job. That's good. You jumped in. You jumped in. Kill Brom. Nice. Mid.
If they can get into this fight, Zig's still safe in the back. Line to Mindy. Could be running down. Arrow gets one for himself. 2 kills so far to OpTic. The chase coming in. Here comes Orn. He's going to get 4 with the knockup. Only 2 actually as they kite around to the side. Oh, the triple hit. They've killed 2 already. Make it a 3rd.
Promise to Johnny.
No flash.
Okay. She's dead. No.
I'm going.
Look.
TSM will take down OpTic in game 2.